Hey everyone, Lazer here, Mythgard patch day. I'm gonna run down the patch list and see what we think. Spoiler alert, I've read all of it already and have some opinions, and overall I think the patch is pretty cool. So let's give it a look. It's the holiday edition patch, so that's nice. The big thing that they're doing is there is a 2v2 holiday event. Now this is kind of cool. First of all, there's these awesome UI tweaks. Everyone gets a Santa hat, which I love, and this board is it's beautiful. I love this board. I'm really looking forward to them doing more with the boards as they've been doing so far. I think that is a really great place to put some cosmetics into the game. But the idea is they will give you a interesting randomized, pseudo-randomized deck, and then you get to play with it in 2v2. We'll go over the specifics of that down a little bit further in the patch notes, but that's the big thing. The other big thing is the ranked season is ending on the 21st. So the day I'm recording this is the 18th. So the day this is going out, there'll be 3 more days. And then the season 2, the second season, starts on the 3rd, January 2020. So if you have any ranked goals you want to hit, make sure you get them in before the 21st. Otherwise, well, you're going to have to start over. And by starting over, we mean you go down 1 tier. So I'm probably going to end the season in gold because I didn't spend a lot of time grinding. And that means I'm going to start at the bottom of silver. So no matter what part in gold you are, if I end gold 9, if I end gold 1, I will end up starting in silver 1. So keep that in mind and don't be surprised when that happens. Cool. And also rewards are card packs and fancy portrait trim. So we have that to look forward to. I really like that they're including cosmetics as rewards. I think cosmetics are a really good way to incentivize games, and I'm excited about it. So, features and bug fixes. This is a new 8-turn tutorial mission for those who opt out of the story. This is just there for people who either already know the game, are making a second account, or already really proficient in other games. This isn't really for new players, so I don't think this is all that big of a deal for, like 99% of players. Yeah, that's actually about all I have on that. Next is going to be the 2v2 event, which is really cool. I think this is a really fun thing to do. You get a deck that has 75 cards in it, which is just shy of double the size of most decks. It will be 3 color, which is, rare. Usually decks in this game are going to be 2 color and you just splash for a third, maybe. Given that it's 75 cards, makes a little bit more sense. And they are Highlander decks. What that means is that they only have 1 copy of any card in the deck. If it's a bronze, well, it can only have 1 copy. Silver, 1 copy. Gold, 1 copy. Mythic, well, or Mithril, we already only had 1 copy of that, so yeah, not a big deal. But it does mean that the deck is going to be highly random, and it's going to be just for fun. I don't think you should play this if you're going to be highly competitive about it, so just get angry. You have a random power, which is, makes sense given you have a random deck, and no path, which makes even more sense because your path really depends on what your deck wants to do, and given that your deck is randomized, it doesn't make sense to try and include a path with it, so I think this is a good idea. You start with 6 cards in your hand, sure. You draw 2 cards per turn. I like that a lot. It means you're just going to be able to do a lot of stuff, and you're not punished for doing the things that your hand allows you to do. A lot of times you're going to wonder if you should hold back, if you should instead use your resources later. By drawing 2 cards per turn, this encourages a very high action, I don't want to say intensity, but just a more fast-paced game. So I think for a random game mode, for like an event mode, this is a really good idea. Runs until January 8th, so you have plenty of time to play it. Again, as the time of writing, you have just shy of a month. And if you play it a bunch, then if you draw 250 cards in the 2v2 event, you get this awesome little card back. Look at this. It's so cute. It's got 3 axolotls just like piled up on top of each other, trying to put their tree topper on. Oh, I love this. This is so cute. Like, this is the exact right way to incentivize both playing the game and hopefully in the future monetizing it. You get Santa hats or other holiday accoutrements if you equip any of the winter card backs or trims. Oh, that's so cool. I really like that. That's really neat. Okay, animated emotes. This is really cool. They are adding new emotes that you can use, and then they have little animations to them. So that's really neat. And the thing I really like about it is that you can customize your emotes soon. you're going to be able to choose which emotes you want in that little menu on the bottom left on your screen, which I think is really cool. End of Season 1. The ranked panel now shows your past season record in the medals panel. That's kind of cool. You could just show off as high as you've gotten. Hopefully people aren't going to use that to shame people who haven't gotten to high ranks, but people can be jerks sometimes. Just got to monitor our community pretty well. 1, 3, 5, 7, 10 packs and a special portrait flare depending on your rank. So I'm gold. I assume that means I'm going to get, so let's see, bronze, silver, gold. So I'm going to get 5 packs, then mithril, and then champion. Cool. So getting some packs for playing. That's always good. New puzzles. Awesome. Puzzles are one of the most fun game modes there are, so I'm really happy that's happening. Fixed missing next pack button. Okay, cool. Different matchmaking algorithms that will be more friendly to players at the very high and low ends of the spectrum, and then you can give some feedback. I think this is great. People who are at the very low end of the MMR spectrum are going to be kind of prone to getting boned because they don't have a lot of other new people to play against. So making the matchmaking algorithm kind of tailored for them makes a lot of sense. And then also there were a lot of reports of people at the very high end of the MMR spectrum getting matched up with people who are way below their rank. So I don't know if this is what that's addressing specifically, because I'm not amazing at the game. I'm more entertaining than I am talented. So I don't know exactly what the problems that they're solving here are, but if it's the problem where champion players were ending up in games with like golds and silvers, then I think it's really, really good. You can now burn cards by dragging them straight down, even if they're at the sides of your hand. Awesome. It makes it more usable. I love it. Fixed the bug that caused zoom cards to get stuck in some rare cases. Oh man, that was annoying. That was a really annoying bug. I'm glad that's fixed. Improved scaling of some parts of the UI for phones. Awesome. I think the phone market is really important. There's a very large portion of player bases for all card games that only play on mobile. So making sure that your mobile experience is as good as it can be is incredibly important. Removed the VO for certain cards. I assume that means they're changing the VOs. I don't know if that means adding effects or re-recording them. I'm not entirely sure what that means, but not that. It means they're doing work on it. So sure, why not? Ranked points for champion level players is awarded in the same way as mithril players as a temporary band-aid for not having gotten something better in place in time for next season. Sure. I think that's not really that big of a deal, at least not for the majority of the player base. So I think that's probably fine, I would imagine. I'd have to ask some of my teammates who are much higher ranking than I am how they feel about it. And various other bug fixes. Yep, they're developers, they're fixing bugs. That's what they do, and we like to see it. Known issues are kind of similar as usual. No guilds yet, no tournaments yet, but they're on the way. There's one puzzle that's broken, which is kind of funny, but it's puzzles. They're just for fun. It's fine. Okay, the big portion of this, the important portion of this in my eyes, other than the 2v2 event, is going to be the card changes. So let's take a look at this. Halcyon Decree, enemy minions in 3 adjacent lanes get -2/-0 permanently and are suppressed until your next turn. I think that's really cool. Before, you can see here, it said, the strength debuff has always needed to be immune to its own dang suppression to function. So kind of cleaning this up in terms of usability is really, really nice. I don't know if this will necessarily get played. It's good, but I don't know if it's insane. Honestly, if I'm playing Halcyon Decree, then I'd probably just rather play Shadow of Our Beast instead. But we'll see. At the very least, this makes this more functional. Master of Shadows going from 4 to 5 cost, and he no longer has stealth. I'll be honest, I think this change is dumb. I don't see this as necessary at all. I think this was a case of outcry because the card was difficult to deal with if you had a poorly constructed deck. I don't think having a card that needs to be removed by something other than combat is like the worst thing, especially because it's the only one. It was the thing that made it interesting, right? It was the thing that made the card important. So I don't know. I don't love that. I don't think it's really going to matter all that much. It wasn't really a great card already because you could just kind of play around it. It is only defensive. It doesn't really do anything for you offensively. So I don't know. I don't think it's that big of a deal, but I think it's a change that's just aimed at people complaining, which I don't love. But, whatever. It's not that big a deal. It wasn't a great card to start with. It's not a great card now. It does still give everything stealth when they come into the field, so that's still interesting. They still have the primary goal of giving all your other things stealth, and he is still hard to deal with. He is still that indestructible kind of guy, so, it's still pretty solid. Scourge of Serpents, going from 4 to 5, I think is a phenomenal change. Scourge of Serpents is the one that summons a 2/2 snake with Alpha Strike in front of all of your enemy occupied lanes rather. I think that card was absolutely nutso if you got it in the right situations. We saw in the Winter Wonder Brawl in the finals, Garen versus Kovaris, game 1, I believe it was. Garen straight up just won the game because the Scourge of Serpents did incredible amounts of work. It came down on turn 4, and none of Kovaris' minions were able to trade, and so Garen got an absurd amount of tempo, stalled out the game just a couple turns that really were in Kovaris' favor beforehand, and he won the game off of that, and because Kovaris just couldn't do anything about it. Making that come down a turn later puts it more in line with things like Misanthropia, and against aggressive decks, it's better than Misanthropia, actually, because not only are you clearing off all of your opponent's minions, you're also getting 2/2s out of it for your trouble. So in its best case, it is a better Misanthropia. In its worst case, it's a 1/1. It's a 5 mana 2/2 Alpha Strike, which is really bad, but you never play it, then you would just burn it. So I think this is a good change. I don't know if it was a required change, but I'm interested to see how its power level shakes out after this. I think it's still strong. I just don't think it's an auto-include in yellow control. But I think it's still playable. Next up, Shadowvar Beast from a 3/3 to a 2/3, absolutely mandatory change. Shadowvar Beast was arguably the best card in the game for the last patch. It was good both offensively and defensively, and had a good stat line on curve, which is ridiculous. It can't have good offense, good defense, and a good body. That's way too much good for one card. So moving it to a 2/3 reduces its own trading power, which it already had 3 trading power because it gave everything fragile. So basically this just means that it had the 3 power that it started with, and everything else around it gets to be traded up a little bit better, which I think is more in line with what the card really wants to do. It's kind of the ultimate combat trick. It makes your minions more survivable by making your opponent's minions a little more fragile, or less hit, softer, do less damage, weak, -1. And it also, it still means that you get to have some really nice trading up potential as well. So I think it's a really good change. I think this is really, really good. Storied Martyr from a 1/1 to a 2/2, and instead of giving all your minions +1/+1 and overrun until end of the next turn, give all your rebels +1/+1. Notice that it does not say until the end of any turn. It's just a permanent +1/+1. Weird change, but it was also a weird card to start with. The original Storied Martyr as a 1/1 never really did anything. It was kind of weird to set up because you either had to have something like an Ignition in hand to kill it yourself so that your minions could get the buff, or you had to have the very narrow case where you could give it Charge, Rush, whatever it's called in this one. Rush? Yeah, Rush. And then you also had to have something for it to attack into, either Rush enabled because of like a Daring Ringmaster, or you had to hope your opponent played into it, or you had to like impel it to move into trades. Like, it was really clunky. You couldn't get it reliably. And even if you did get it to go off, it was only a 1-turn kind of thing, like a turn and a half, I guess. Now it gives all your minions +1/+1 permanently, and also it has better trading power to start with. Like a 2/2 is just a better stat line than a 1/1 no matter what. But it only gives the buff to other rebels. Now that's interesting. There is a mono-orange combo deck where you try and give something that is both a rebel and a zealot a whole bunch of power, and then you can Alpha Strike with it. Maybe this slots in there, but again, you still have to find a way to actually get the buff down, so I don't know if this is enough to make rebel decks good. Rebel decks aren't bad to start with, but they're not a tribe that is actually played. So I'm curious to see where this goes. I don't think this is a bad change. I think it's a good change overall. I think it's a much more interesting design space, being a lord for rebels, and making it a 2/2 makes it actually playable on curve and just kind of on its own. So maybe this makes like rebel mid-range beatdown good. I don't know. We'll find out. Volition trademark. This is, in my opinion, the best change of the patch, other next to Shadow Our Beast. Back down to 2 mana, so you can still play a bunch of them in one turn, but after you give something a standard action, friendly minion standard action, it's stunned until the end of the turn after it attacks. So if it attacks, it's stunned until the end of the turn. What that means, effectively, is that you can only volition a minion once in a turn. I'm going to talk about this in an upcoming video on the power of finishers, but before, the finisher for yellow-green control patch before this one, so like this patch is coming out before the previous patch. The finisher for yellow-green control was get something really big on the field and then volition it 2 or 3 times to OTK your opponent. It's really strong. It was really consistent because you can get there pretty easily. What this says now is, okay, you still get to use multiple of them in a turn, but you have to spread it out, right? You have to have either a couple different minions to attack with. You have to have a board already developed if you want to use more than one in a turn. And you can't rely on just having one somewhat big thing attack 3 turns. Like having a Sapo come down, attack 3 turns for 24 damage. You can't do that anymore. Now you can still get in for 8 to start with, because you can volition once, and then if it survives a turn, you can attack and then volition to have a second attack. You can still get 2 attacks out if it was on the board already, but you can't have something have rush and 2 attacks effectively. So I think this is a really, really important change because at 3 it was really clunky to use. It was still very powerful, don't get me wrong, but I think this is more in line with where this card should be. You use it to get some extra power out of your card. You're getting the flavor of forcing your minion to go beyond its limits because it really cares about the cause. I think it's really, really cool. So I'm really happy about it. Card art updated for a couple of cards. Straight. I thought the Fossegrim art was really cool already, but I'm excited to see what it's like now. Metamorphosis was hilarious, but I mean, it was definitely placeholder art, so we'll see. There are a couple bugs with the patch. I think they're trying to hotfix them tomorrow, so I'm not going to worry about those all too much. So yeah, that's my thoughts on the Mythgard holiday patch. Overall, I like it. There's a couple that I am only sort of lukewarm on. I think the Master of Shadows change was a little unnecessary, but it wasn't really played a lot at high level anyway. The Scourge of Serpents, I think we're going to have to see how it turns out. And Stored Martyr, I have no idea about, but I like the direction of the change. And then the 2v2 event, I think, is amazing. I'm going to be playing a ton of it, and I want that Axolotl card back. It's so cute. They get to make a little tree. Anyway, that's my opinions on this patch. Thanks a whole bunch. This has been Lazer. New videos coming in the short term, and until that video comes out, I'll see you next time.